All right, welcome everyone to my GCAP 2021 talk. My name is Leducq. I'm a production coordinator at Rocketworks, and today I'll be talking about combining Jira and Confluence, how to develop project synergy between tasks and documentation. So thank you for joining me today. So what does this talk about? I really liked the theme of this year's GCAP, raising the bar, and what I hope to achieve with this talk is raising the processes bar that you guys have in your studios and your projects to pretty much create better efficiency. We use at Rocketworks Confluence for our documentation tool, and we use Jira for our tickets and actions. And I feel like if you combine them in the right ways and kind of use them to their best ability, you can create some really good efficient processes. So that's what I hope to talk about today. I'm going to go through some of my favorite tips and hacks with how they communicate to each other. So things like hyperlinking, dynamic lists, dynamic charts, searching for tickets, referencing documentation within tickets. And I'll also go through some bonus goodies, things like Slack integration, the mobile apps, and other fun things that I've come across in my journey. So before we jump into those, I'll just give a bit of background as to who I am and what my journey in game dev has been like so far, just to give a bit of context as to why I'm here. I'm currently a mid-level production coordinator at Rocketworks in Auckland, New Zealand, working on the project Icarus, which is a new survival game by Dean Hall, creator of the original DayZ mod. It's really, really exciting. I love working on a survival game, and I love the team there. We're about 65 people at the moment, and yeah, just we're heading for launch at around November, and we've got some beta weekends happening at the moment. So definitely check it out if you guys are interested. It's on Steam. So my game dev journey started back in 2014 when I got a QA tester internship at Gameloft. I ended up working there for a year in QA and then jumping over to production. And that's when I really fell in love with games, fell in love with the skills that a producer needs for communication and developing processes and things like that. So that's where my kind of journey started. We worked on a few mobile games there, shipped a few, and a few years later I got a job at Weta Workshop in QA, and that's where we started learning Jira and Confluence. That's where I learned it, and really fell in love with it. Fell in love with the UI, fell in love with the just the layout, the power of it, the amount of customization, and things like that, and that's what led to Rocketworks, where we're fully invested in Confluence and Jira. There are a few other Atlassian tools that we don't use that I think could be valuable for other teams. We just already had tools for things like your commit process and things like that. But I'll talk about that a bit at the end. But we use Jira and Confluence mainly. Our art department uses ShotGrid for the art pipeline. And we have ways of kind of communicating between ShotGrid and Jira that we've made work for us. But I'll only be talking about Jira and Confluence and how we use that at our studio. So before I start that, a few of the other things that I have going on the side is I also sit on the board of the NZGDA, and that's given me some great access to some indie developers and other studios about learning about their processes, things that they can improve and things like that. Helping manage the NZGDC conference, it's been a great way for me to just learn a lot about how other studios operate and things like that. And I also produce a weekly game dev podcast called Zero to Play, where I interview game devs from all around the world. And I love that as just a way to learn about other people's stories in the industry and learning about some other perspectives from other people working in different departments and things like that. So if you're looking for some content in the game space, definitely check it out. And yeah, that's kind of my story. Let's get into the meat of the talk. So the first thing I want to talk about is probably the most basic way that that Jira and Confluence integrate with each other. But for me, it's probably the most powerful. And what it is just when you paste a link from Jira into Confluence, it pops up with a few options that show like more statuses from that ticket. So as you can see in the GIF, it shows you the ticket number, the ticket ID, the ticket title, and then the status. And that's really, really important, because if you have a list of tickets that you've pasted in a Confluence page and you're able to just skim through and see the statuses of those tickets, it changes the whole perspective that you have of documentation. You no longer need to click into each link to see the status. You don't need to live in Jira. You can have documents that are created in Confluence that talk about certain features or certain teams, and they directly show the status updates for those within the documents. So that's probably my favorite part. And different ways that I've integrated it is during a meeting, you're taking notes for the meeting, and at the end you come up with the action points that you want to action after the meeting to continue development. And you can create tickets in Jira and then just kind of put them at the bottom of the meeting notes, so that you have context if you ever revisit those notes, the status of those action items. If you need to find out what the kind of outcomes were from those meetings, you can easily go through and then find the Jira ticket, see the status of it, see if there's been any blockers or things like that, which has really helped with just the efficiency of the process. You can create documents for sprints, features, feedback from playtests and things like that, and then you can have tickets that reference all of that feedback and the actionable work that is going to be done to resolve those problems. That's probably the first one. Definitely, like I said, the simplest, but the most powerful, that I think having a tool for your tickets and documentation that can talk to each other like just for this is worth it, in my opinion. So the second thing is going into a bit more detail. You have these things, or you have filters that you can create in Jira. And these are incredibly powerful. You can create filters for almost anything, things that have certain words in the title, certain labels, certain priority, certain team members assigned to them, certain epics. And what you do is all you have to do is select the filter field in Confluence, and then you can pull up that list of filtered tickets right in Confluence. But what my favorite part about it is that it's a dynamic list. So if you add a new ticket, let's say you've got a filter for John and John's tickets, and he's got 10 tickets for work that he's doing, and you need to just kind of see at a glance the kind of work that he's doing, or maybe you've mentioned him in a document, and you need to have that kind of context of what he's currently working on. You can easily add this filter into Confluence, into that document, and then if he ever gets a new ticket that's assigned to him, it will dynamically appear inside that document without you having to do anything. So it saves a lot of time. It makes the source of truth of documents last a lot longer, which is a real big problem in I think in game development in general, but even other industries, is having that source of truth of documentation. Sometimes these filters can help maintain that by having it easy to go between the two. I like visualizing a list of tasks as well, and it looks really nice and organized. Other use cases for this is, you could have a team's kind of stand-up listed in Confluence with all of their tasks listed side by side, and you can also have different features that are filtered by a certain word or a certain term, whatever the epic is, and you can keep track of that feature. Same for sprints. If you have like a block of 2-week urgent tasks that need to be done, you can keep that list really organized and up to date with you not having to do any extra work right in Confluence. The one caveat that I want to mention is that filters are really, really powerful, but they can be dangerous if not everyone is on the same page with how tickets should be created. So someone might forget a label or name the ticket differently, and it won't appear in the filter. And this is obviously, a communication that needs to happen across teams if there is a process for how tickets are created. So definitely be careful. Don't be too granular with your filters. Try keep them broad and easy enough so that even if someone wasn't too familiar with the process, it would still be picked up. But that's just something to be aware of. Unless it's tickets that you are personally managing and creating, then you can have a lot more control as to how detailed you want to be with the filter. So that's the next one. The one after that is dynamic charts. So it's a similar concept to the filters. You can grab a selection of information from Jira and then turn that into a pie chart or a burn down chart or a bar chart. There's several options inside of Confluence, and it updates dynamically. So you can have on a daily basis the amount of created tasks and the amount of resolved tasks appear in like a nice burn down chart style, so that you can easily see at a glance every day the status of the project. There's a lot of different ways you can customize it. If I'm being honest, I feel like it lacks a little bit compared to other options like Google Sheets, for example, or Google Slides, the chart customization. But I do think Atlassian is getting there, and they're adding new features every month. Being able to visualize things is really handy. And also one thing that I want to mention is in Jira, there's a dashboard section. In that dashboard section, you have a lot of the same functionality that you do in these charts that you can put into a Jira dashboard. So a lot of it is the same, but you might find that there's a case where you have a document where you have text and you have a lot of source of truth information in Confluence that could benefit from having a chart in there as well. So it all depends on the use case, but just know Jira dashboards are another area within Jira that you can have similar chart information described. So just so you know. Next one is searching tickets. So this one's really, really interesting. You could be writing notes for a meeting. So you're just taking notes as people are talking and discussing and deciding on things. If a ticket is mentioned within the meeting, you can easily just add a / in Jira and search a key term to find that ticket that's been referenced, and then easily copy it so that it's labeled inside the document without having to leave Confluence, without having to leave the new document that hasn't been published yet. And it just creates a lot of fluidity in kind of how easy it is to add tickets that then lead to work that's being done within like a meeting or within a discussion. So that's quite powerful. You can search filters, you can search people. You kind of need to find out how to make it work for you. It's handy if you're looking for certain keywords, but I found if you understand JQL really well and how to create filters using JQL, then it can be easier. But if you're just kind of jumping in it for the first time, it might take you a bit to kind of learn exactly the right terms to search for. So like I said, it's good for taking notes in meetings, but it's also good when you're writing documentation and you want to reference like all the issues in an epic or a label or something like that. So yeah, searching tickets is handy. Next one on the list is referencing documentation. So this one's also almost a no-brainer. You don't really think about it until you realize you're using it a lot. So what happens is when you copy and paste a hyperlink into a document on Confluence, if you go back to the Jira ticket, it will show you, as you can see here in the GIF, it says Confluence pages mentioned on. So every Confluence page that talks about this ticket that you're looking at, it will show the documentation. So this could be referencing meeting minutes where the inception of that ticket came about. It could be mentioned. It could be mentioning design documentation if a programmer is implementing a new system or a new feature and they need to know the scope or the intent of what it is that they need to work on. You can easily see the hyperlink directing into Confluence so that you can see the the information that's needed without needing to go and bug the programmer, bug the designer, and kind of get that information that way. So it's just a very easy way to just very easily find documents without needing to communicate it to that person, because it'll just automatically pop up. And that becomes really, really handy if you use it in the right ways. It's great when someone's lost or confused about a topic, and in some cases they might go talk to the designer, they might talk to their producer. In other cases that they just open up this document, and it saves the amount of time that they would spend using the producer's time, using up the designer's time, and finding where that document exists. So that's how it makes things very efficient. I do really like this, and it's one of those things that you realize is implemented very solidly within your team when you just see kind of documents referenced in all sorts of different Confluence pages. So yeah, those are my favorite tips. But I have a bunch of bonus goodies that I think are worth talking about, just things that we've explored, or that I've explored over the last year working at Rocketworks and using Confluence and Jira on a daily basis. You kind of find different ways that you personalize your projects and things like that. And one thing that, the first thing I want to mention is adding emojis. So you can add like emojis to the beginning of your headers of your documents on the left-hand bar of Confluence, and I've found that this just creates a bit more color, a bit more familiarity. It's easier to navigate. It feels a bit more fun. And that's something I really enjoyed exploring, is just how to incorporate emojis. As a producer, I think you always try to find ways of incorporating emojis in what you do, and it's cool to see that that Confluence supports it. And yeah, it's just something good to know. Just makes it more colorful and more interesting. The next little goodie that I want to talk about is the mobile app. So I have the story of, this has probably happened a few times now, where I have been in a meeting and a conversation has started about a certain design feature or a certain system. And very quickly people start referencing previous meetings and previous conversations that have happened. And I've just grabbed my phone, opened up the Confluence app, searched a keyword term that we're talking about, and then found a document that has the information, as the source of truth of that conversation, and being able to reference it in that moment, and has helped, save a lot of time for people to have those discussions over again, to kind of have a document that you can pull up and see what was discussed back then, and see what has changed. So yeah, the mobile app is definitely something to keep on your phone. I have the Jira app as well, and they both function really well. They're real fast, really intuitive. But I have to admit, I made sure I turn notifications off as soon as I downloaded it, because getting notifications for documents and tasks and tickets when you get assigned to them is a little overbearing, and I do try to keep that to my desktop only. So yeah, please be cautious of that. The last thing you want is to get woken up at 1 a.m. by a ticket that was assigned to you by a producer that's working late, and that is the only thing you can think about for the rest of the night. So keep that in mind, but the mobile apps for Jira and Confluence are both really good. Slack integration. So this is another really powerful tool that we use on a daily basis now at Rocketworks, where you can get the apps for Confluence and Jira, and they're quite customizable. You can get a notification every time you're assigned to an issue, every time you're commented on a ticket or referenced in a Confluence page. You could even watch certain issues or certain pages, so that when there's changes or updates made to them, you can get pinged about it. It's really handy, and I've because most of our team has migrated over to Slack for our kind of day-to-day communication, people don't really use email anymore, and I don't feel like the notification system within Jira or Confluence is particularly, it's very easy to ignore once you get used to the websites. You don't really notice the kind of exclamation mark in the top corner, whereas with Slack, having that integration just keeps it top of mind. Clearly in this screenshot, I have a few Jira tickets that I need to go and address, but it's always there. So I see it on a daily basis, and it's definitely something that's easier to notice and to work with than email, for example, which I feel like most of the team has pretty much moved off of at this stage. The next bit that I want to speak about is document collaboration. So this is interesting because it's quite it's had a lot of development lately from Atlassian. This is in Confluence. When you're creating a new page, you can have multiple people editing that page at once. And only recently they've added the ability to see where the cursor is for other people. So it is getting better. I was going to mention that it's not as good as something like Google Docs is, but the fact that they are iterating on it is cool, and it makes me hopeful that they are going to kind of bring the quality of that kind of collaboration similar to other tools that are out there. So that's quite cool to know that you can collaborate on a page together, and that information isn't really lost. Another cool thing that I've used a few times is the page history button in Confluence. So you may have had a document that you've developed, iterated on for months, and what it does really well is keeps a log of all the different versions of that document that have been created. So you can very easily go back to a month ago when a feature was described that you ended up deleting and replacing with something else, and you kind of need to go reference that exact wording. You can very easily go back and look at the page history for each page in Confluence, which I thought it was really cool. I don't know how long they kind of go back, but it is a cool feature. When you need it, it can be a lifesaver. Automation is an interesting one. I know Jira has some really great automation tools. So you can create some cool if-else statements. You can get tickets created when other tickets close. You can get tickets reopened or assigned to someone else when when an action or a certain status gets put onto it. It's very, very customizable and awesome. But I personally don't. I haven't gone down that route yet. I've stayed clear, but I know a few people that kind of rely on automated processes, and they can save you a lot of time and headache. And if you can figure out how to integrate automated processes into your team, I think that's incredibly efficient. I haven't reached that stage yet in my production journey. Maybe I will one day, but just know that Jira has lots of tools for creating really cool automated processes. The marketplace is another thing that both Jira and Confluence have. So you can get third-party extensions to certain tools and different scripts and things like that. We personally don't use any at Rocketworks, but maybe you are in a real niche situation at your studio, or your project has a real niche problem that may be solved in a third-party app or integration. So I definitely would recommend checking that out, seeing what's to offer. There's both free and paid plugins, but it's similar to Slack and how they have external apps. I believe you can find integrations for things like Google Drive and other Google products and things within Jira and Confluence. They try and share their APIs with other products. So definitely check it out if that's what you're kind of into, and just see what is for offer there. That's not something that I've really explored yet, but it's definitely there, and there's new apps being added all the time. So Confluence Templates are another thing that I've seen a lot of, haven't really explored in too much detail, but you can very easily if you're new to Confluence and it's quite intimidating, their templates are really, really incredible. You can tell that they've put a lot of thought and effort and time from people skilled in different areas of software and games to create these templates for meetings that happen regularly, that are quite common. So things like brainstorming sessions or design meetings, retros, content strategy meetings, calendars and things like that. There's all sorts of different templates that have like a preset layout that just make Confluence a little less intimidating. Maybe find a really good template that you use on a daily basis with your team or a weekly basis that solves a few problems. That just makes it a lot easier. That's laid out a bit better. Maybe you don't have that kind of design aesthetic interest for designing pages, and some of these templates could be exactly what you need to just give like a simple format that you can work with. So definitely check out the templates if you're new to Confluence and you want to kind of learn how to use it in a deeper way. Definitely see what they have to offer there. Jira Roadmaps are a very, very interesting and powerful tool. We haven't really integrated this in the Rocketworks team yet, but I'm a huge fan of just the visualization of epics on like a calendar. It's something I think works really well, and Jira has they've put a lot of time into making sure that their roadmap system works really well and effortlessly. You can easily drag and drop the deadlines onto different days and extend them. You could even add dependencies for some epics to others and see the status of completion on them as well. So definitely look into the roadmap feature of Jira if that is the kind of framework you're wanting to build around and have visualized for your team. One thing I wanted to mention as well is that it's free for under 10 users, and I think that's really neat. That it's such a powerful tool used by huge studios. I'm pretty sure like Riot Games and Epic Games all use Jira. It's pretty widely adopted amongst the industry, and it's awesome that they have a free version for under 10 users. If you're a small team and you just want to kind of have some tooling to get started, I think that's really cool. I used this for this talk to just whip up a few examples of projects and pages and things like that. So it's awesome that you can just jump in and go check it out. So definitely, if you're interested, if you're on the fence, or if you want to swap over from a different tool into Confluence or Jira, you can easily get a free account and go play around with it. So I thought I'd mention the comments and tagging system. It's very effortlessly done, similar to the like hyperlinking, where you can just at someone's name and it will find them in the system in the projects list, and you can easily tag them and it'll ping them, give them a notification, so you can easily add comments, have discussions within comments section of pages, comments section of Jira tickets, and it just makes communication really easy within tickets and pages itself. So many good problems have been solved through comments of just being kind of thrown back and forth between different developers and things like that. You can add screenshots, you can loop in different people, you can add kind of emoji reactions to comments, and I do really like the comment system. It makes it very easy to use, easy to interact with, and just kind of loop in the people that you need to solve certain problems. So one of the last things I want to mention is combining Confluence with Trello as well. Trello was acquired by Atlassian in 2017, and they've integrated it completely into the family of Atlassian tools. And I've used Trello for some small personal projects, nothing big studio related, but I know that some smaller indie studios and small teams use Trello and their board view to manage their tasks and the kind of to-do list that they have. So it's really cool. You can integrate your Trello board into Confluence pages so that you can have that visibility right within Confluence. So I thought that was neat, just to kind of tie the two together. That could be something, maybe you use Trello and you didn't realize Confluence had that kind of integration, so that could be a good solution for some of your documentation. The last thing I want to mention is that, like Trello, there's a whole bunch of other tools that Atlassian offers that I'm sure have integration within Confluence and Jira that I didn't mention today. That's that involves other departments, whether it's the DevOps teams. I just know things like Bitbucket can be really valuable if you want to be kind of fully integrated into the Atlassian family. There could be probably some other really valuable tips and ways that they integrate with each other that I don't know about. So definitely check out the kind of other list of apps that Atlassian offers to see if there's anything that that you might be searching for that they do have a solution for. So that's pretty much the talk for today. A few things just to wrap it up. All of the little tips and hacks that I mentioned, they're just tools to make better processes. It's not a solution to make a bad production and inefficient team efficient. Like there's a lot of work that needs to be done from the team itself, and just having a passion for having someone on the team that's passionate about communication and caring about the team and caring about the motivation behind the team. That needs to happen first, and the tools are just there to kind of help with that communication. One quote that I like to think about every so often is "Keep it simple, stupid," which abbreviates to KISS, which is just easy to remember. And the idea is that, you shouldn't try and make your processes too complicated. You kind of want them to be adopted by new team members that join. And the more complicated something is, the less people are willing to adopt it and kind of be passionate about it and understand it as much as you. So know that there's always ways to improve as well. Even the biggest studios, Rocketworks is like a mid to large size studio now, and we're constantly improving our processes. I'm sure the huge studios with hundreds, thousands of employees are constantly figuring out new processes as well. So if you're a small team and you're just figuring out kind of the best way to do things, know that every studio is constantly trying new things and trying to find different ways of making these tools work better for us. Even the tools themselves, like I was saying with the documentation collaboration, like Atlassian's adding new features every day, every month to make their software better. So in a year's time, there's going to be a whole bunch of new ways that they interact with each other that don't exist now, and ways that we operate that don't exist now. So there'll be new problems to solve later. And the last thing is that ideas are nothing without execution. So it's cool to listen to all these little tips and things like that, but you should definitely try to implement different processes to see if they work. I don't think you can really make a wise decision without giving it a go. So definitely, if you're kind of worried about changing your processes, I think sometimes the best answer is to just jump in, see how it works for a few weeks, ask your team how they feel about a new process and a new way of doing things, and you might find that things are more efficient than they were before. Like I said, the project that this talk was kind of built around, I created a new account for it. So I've said that if the first 9 people that DM me are interested, they can get access to the project, and then we can just jump around in Jira and Confluence and look at it together, explore different things. Maybe we could even talk about different integrations and different ways that you guys have found to have them communicate with each other. So if you're interested in joining the project that I created for this talk, give me a DM and we can continue the conversation there. I've also put a summarized Twitter thread from this talk on my Twitter at Carl's Content if you're interested in kind of seeing the GIFs again or seeing the information in like a more summarized way. Definitely go check that out. And I will also be doing a bit of a Q&A. If you guys have some time now, I would love to answer your questions. I believe it's on Zoom in the comments section, so please leave your comments there if you have any questions about Jira Confluence that you think I can answer. So yeah, thanks again for listening. Thanks GCAP for having me for the talk, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys offline.